Hi guys, in this tutorial I'll be sharing how to draft a trouser pattern directly on your fabric. Whether you want a normal trouser or you want to make a jumpsuit, the process is the same thing, and I'm going to be doing this directly on the fabric. So if you want to learn how to do this, then come along on this journey with me, and let's jump into this tutorial. To begin, this is the Ankara fabric that I'm going to be working with. I have a total of 6 yards. Obviously, I won't be using the entire 6 yards. And the client I am making this for is a size 8 client. So what I would do first of all is to fold my fabric into two as always. Next, I am going to be marking 1 inch from the folded edge. This 1 inch would provide room for any side seam allowance that I may want to add to this trouser. Also, I'll be marking a line at the topmost part of my fabric. This is where all of my measurements would be taken from. It is now time to begin placing our measurements. Now, if you're working on a jumpsuit, you don't need to deduct any waistband allowance. However, if you're working on a trouser, you will need to take out your waistband allowance from your crotch depth measurement. But for this, I'm not going to be deducting my waistband allowance because this was actually cut for a jumpsuit. So I'll just go ahead and directly place my crotch depth measurement and add half an inch for ease because this is a jumpsuit. So I'm marking 12 inches for that. I'm also marking my waist to knee measurement, which was 24 inches. I'm going over to place my waist to ankle measurements. My camera couldn't cover this, but on your fabric, just go ahead and mark yours. And I'm going over to rule out my lines. After that is all done, I will then place a quarter of my hip measurement on the crotch line. I'll mark that measurement down. I'll place that same measurement on the waistline and deduct 1 inch from it. So if I marked 10 inches on the crotch line, I'll be marking 9 inches on the waistline. I'll be connecting both points together this way. Next, I would go ahead and mark out my crotch extension of about 2.7 inches. I will then draw in my crotch curve. After that is all done, I will proceed to the waistline and place a quarter of the waist measurement. Then I would be adding 1 inch for that allowance. I will be connecting that to my crotch line. I always like to mark about 2 inches below the crotch line. This would be the tie line. It is on this line I will be placing my tie round measurement, although some people do not use their tie round measurement. Next, I'll be marking the entire measurement I have on the crotch line and be getting the midpoint of that line. I would also be placing that same measurement on the tie line and also on the knee line. I'll be coming over later to work on the ankle line. Next thing I will do is to place a quarter of my tie round measurement on either side of the midpoint. So I'm going over to place 6.5 inch to the right side of the midpoint and 6.5 inch to the left side of the midpoint. Because this jumpsuit is not going to be a fitted one, I won't be using the exact knee round measurement. I will just be deducting some measurement from what I have on the tie line. So on the tie line, I have about 6.5 inch. What I'll mark on the knee line will be about 5.75 on either side of the midpoint that I marked on that line. I will then connect all of those points together. It is now time for me to work on the ankle line. I'm just going over to gently push my fabric so that it can be on focus. For clarity's sake, this line right here is my knee line and this is my ankle line. So guys, remember the midpoint of the crotch line that I marked on my thigh line and on my knee line. I will be placing that same measurement on my ankle line. Then I'll mark the measurements I have on my knee line and place the exact measurement on my ankle line. I'll be connecting all the points together. Before going over to cut, I'll be adding my seam allowances. I'm going over to add half an inch seam allowance around the crotch area. I'll also be adding half an inch seam allowance to the side seam, to the inseam rather, and then I'll be adding 1 inch to the side. After adding all necessary seam allowances, I will then cut this out. I always like to notch some crucial points on my trouser like the thigh line, the knee line and also the crotch line too. This would help me to sew easily and to easily match up my point. It is now time to work on the back. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two and here I am just placing the front on that fabric. I would need to do a few alterations and then I would have my back all set out. So the first thing I will do is to mark half an inch along the crotch area just to have enough room for any zipper I might want to fix there. The back waistline of the trouser is always higher than that of the front. For this, I'll be raising my back waistline by 1 inch and I'll be connecting it to the side of my trouser. So initially, I thought I did not add 1 inch dart allowance to the front and here I'm going over to add 1 inch dart allowance again, but I later took this out from my measurement. So I'll just connect from that elevated point to the side. So the back waistline is raised higher than the front. Moving on, along the crotch area, I'll be coming downward by half an inch for the back. And then I'll be marking about 1 inch extra for ease around the crotch area. Then I would smoothen that into the knee line this way. I would also finish off the back crotch. After that is all done, it is now time to cut out my back. After cutting guys, I'll be doing a little alteration to the front waistline. Remember the back waistline is elevated by 1 inch, but the front waistline is going to be depressed by about 0.75 inch to 1 inch. So usually I like to use 0.75 inch. I'll come down by that along the crotch area and I'll connect it to the side. So guys, this is how I draft my pattern for trouser, whether I want to make a normal trouser or I want to make it into a jumpsuit. Pretty simple and easy to draft. You can do this directly on your fabric without having to use a pattern paper. If you found this tutorial helpful, kindly give it a huge thumbs up. Stay blessed, and I'll be seeing you guys in my next tutorial. Goodbye.